Artificial intelligence is ripping my soul out.
Artificial intelligence is ripping my soul out.
So my question is, what are your concerns?
If you misuse these large language models, like using it as a convenience to speed things up, your brain's going to go downhill. There's no doubt about that.
What about children?
We have the sickest young generation in history because of cell phones, social media, and I think AI is much more dangerous.
Are you trying to control me?
I'm not really sure if I should be terrified or fascinated, or perhaps both, about what we've just seen and what is actually happening in terms of GenAI's impact, both negatively and positively, in our lives, professionally and personally. And that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. So I've broken it down into 3 parts. The first part is short storytelling about resistance to GenAI that I had in a conversation with a colleague of mine. The second part is to go back to the expert panel and listen to all their insights and data and science that they share with us about the challenges of GenAI and the impact that it may have on everyone, including children and teenagers. And then the third part is my reflections and my sharing of 5 key areas that I think that we need to look into, that I think that we need to address and talk about. And then each and every one of us need to, in a way, figure out how we want to look at all those 5 areas. The other day, I had a conversation in our business meeting when we did our business planning for the next financial year. We started to talk about GenAI and how GenAI can help us in different ways at work, but also at home, if you will, in our thinking processes and the way that we gain new perspectives by having a sounding board, a different type of intelligence, if you will, that we could have a conversation with. And one of my managers, who's much younger than I am. I'm 54 and she's in her late 20s. She challenged that, and she challenged it in a way that she simply just shared her hesitation, even resistance to GenAI. And she said that she didn't want GenAI to take over her brain, and that she felt that it would be too influential, and that her creativity and her innovation or her innovative capabilities would be stripped away. And I hadn't really thought about it like that, but I did challenge back, and I said, I think that we can use GenAI in many different ways, as long as we begin to develop a relationship and that we actually integrate GenAI into the way that we work. She didn't really buy into that. She was kind of set in her mindsets, and that was fine. That wasn't a problem, but it made me think. And that thinking led me to wanting to create this video. And that brings me to the next part of this video.
Let's talk about what's good for the brain and bad for the brain, starting with AI. The reason why I wanted to speak to both of you is because I have frankly become pretty addicted to using ChatGPT and some of these other AIs and large language models every single day, all the time. And then this study came out from MIT. It was 54 participants who were recruited from 5 universities in Boston, MIT, Harvard, et cetera, and they had the participants split into 3 groups, had them writing different essays over, I think it was 4 months. One group used ChatGPT, one group used Google, and one group had no tools. And they had to write these 4 essays over a period of time. And astonishingly, MIT found a 47% collapse in activity and brain connections when people wrote with ChatGPT compared with writing unaided. EEG scans showed the weakest overall brain activity in the ChatGPT group. The no tool group, who didn't use anything, they didn't use Google or ChatGPT, lit up the widest neural networks and Google search was second. After using ChatGPT, participants couldn't reliably quote their own essays minutes later, and their memory scores plunged. ChatGPT users felt little or no ownership over the text that they had produced and didn't feel like it was their work at all. And when the AI group was forced to write without help in session 4, their brains stayed in low gear, under engagement, showing the cognitive debt lingers even after the tool is taken away. It kind of scared me a little bit because I use these tools every single day, and this suggests that it's taking away some of our critical thinking and creativity and long-term learning. And you're both masters of the brain in different regards. So my question, I guess, to Daniel is, what's going on here, and how do you feel about it?
It frightened me. I love thinking about Alzheimer's prevention. It's one of the things that really excites me. I just had a birthday on Saturday, turned 71. And if I make it to 85, which I plan on it, 50% of people 85 and older will be diagnosed with dementia. So you have a 1 in 2 chance of having lost your mind. And I'm like, no. But is this a tool that's going to decrease cognitive load that then increases my risk?
What's cognitive load?
How much work my brain actually does. And I was thinking, it's like going from a 20-pound weight to a 2-pound weight, and you're not nearly as strong.
What's this link, this hypothesis you have between the usage of something like ChatGPT and dementia? For someone that doesn't understand the sort of mechanism there around cognitive load and so on, and the studies that support this idea that if you have less cognitive load, you're at high risk of dementia. Can you make that link really clear for me?
So think of it as use it or lose it. The more you use your brain, and new learning is a major strategy to prevent Alzheimer's disease. People who do not engage in lifelong learning have a higher risk, significantly higher. People who do not do as well in school or who drop out of school early have a higher risk of dementia. And so the more you're engaged, the more you engage the neurons in your brain, the stronger they are. And so now we're going to engage them less, and that's a concern. What do you think about that, Terry?
There's a study that was done. What they did was to look at Alzheimer's in 3 populations, who had very little schooling, and then minimal education, like the equivalent, I guess, of high school or less. And then postgraduate studies. And what they found was that the onset of Alzheimer's was the earliest in the peasant population. And then by the time, as you increase the amount of education, the onset was later and later, which I think supports what you're saying.
What are your concerns as it relates to this whole generation of young people and older people flooding into these tools, using them on a daily basis, before we understand the long-term consequences?
We can't predict where it's going to end up. And it may take 20 years, right? I think that this is a good start, but the real issue is long-term use. And let me give you an example that is a kind of a miniature example of what we're talking about. Remember when electronic calculators were first introduced? And here we are, it's at least 30 or 40 years later, right? The results are in. It's probably true that when they punch it in, there's less brain activity. But in fact, it's made them more accurate, more productive. You have to look at the risks and the benefits.
So it freed them up. It freed up cognitive space for them to do other things. So as I was listening to how you use ChatGPT, you interact with it and elevates what you know. The danger is if you don't interact and you don't keep your brain working.
Thinking is the key thing, because what's happening now is people have deferred their thinking to it. That is already what's happening. If you log on to, I won't name the social networks, but if you log on to certain social networks right now, you just read it, you get everything here was written by AI.
We're not teaching kids to love and care for their brain. If you love your brain, and you do, and you're not obese, and you're constantly learning, right? You are not a Neanderthal, you're a lifelong learner.
En masse tend to go for the thing that will give them the quickest dopamine hit and reinforce that behavior and give them the reward. So my assertion is that AI is the same thing. I can either sit down and do lots of critical thinking, which will cost me lots and lots of time, and it'll be kind of difficult. It kind of hurts when I have to think through a problem. I think that the generation of children and generation of young people are going to choose AI to do the critical thinking for them. And if that assertion is true, then what happens to the brain of young people?
If you misuse it that way, then your brain's going to go downhill. There's no doubt about that, okay? It is possible to be able to use it in a cognitively positive way because you can dig deeper. You might actually improve your cognitive representations.
If you look at the MIT study, I mean, you can see just from the colors here, this kind of shows the ability for participants to remember what they've written. And it suggests that when people write things with ChatGPT or these AI tools, they don't actually remember, even in some cases minutes later, what they've produced.
Well, because you're not part of the experience of writing it. So there's no way the information gets encoded. Now, if you're interacting with it, then you're much more likely to remember it. But if you have, please do this essay for me, and then you read it, you're not likely to have enough experience with the material to engage your hippocampus and other structures in your brain.
In this study, they found that the group that used ChatGPT had nearly 2 times less activity in the part of the brain linked to memory compared to the brain-only group that didn't use ChatGPT. And 83% of ChatGPT users couldn't remember what they had just written and failed to correctly quote their own finished essay in the study.
That's because they're not interacting. As you said, I mean, if you just pass it off and you don't actually engage, and actually this is the point, is that you may get something back, but you have to learn how to question what you're getting. And is that really true? Can you explain that better? And it's through that process, as you would with a teacher, that's the way we work in school. That's where you help create new creative and circuits in the brain that are going to help you become a better critical thinker. But if you're not critically questioning what comes out of ChatGPT, then you won't. People are misusing it, but eventually smart people are going to figure out how to use it properly.
And for those that aren't so smart then?
Well,
it's going to decrease their cognitive load, which is going to potentially increase their risk of dementia.
And so what advice would you give to me and my listeners based on everything you know about the brain as it relates to my relationship with AI?
That you have to have a relationship with it or it's going to turn toxic. It's going to hurt you. But if you have a good relationship with it, it can make your life better.
And what does a good relationship look like?
That you don't use it to do your work. You interact with it to get better work.
In part 3, I would highlight 5 key areas that I would recommend that we all reflect on when it comes to this specific topic of what kind of role GenAI should have and can have in our communities, our societies, and in our personal and professional lives. As you've seen already from the video, seduction of easy access basically means that we get seducted, we get addicted to having easy access. And I don't think that's healthy. I don't think it's healthy because I do believe that creativity and hard work and really working for something, striving for something, is the only way for us to truly manifest both a continuation of personal development and creative thinking, critical thinking, and skills. And if we pass that on just because we want convenience and ease, then that's probably not going to be very good for us in the long run because it's going to impact the different parts of our brain. our work, the work that we do, and the way that we drive our personal development forward is an extension and ultimately becomes who we are. It's that manifestation of me and my own self-awareness and my own understanding because of my capabilities and this hard work of striving for something that both I'm proud of and also that I learned from. If we give away all our, you could say, needs and all these opportunities that we want to pursue, and we just give them to ChatGPT to have a very simplified and easy answer to it, we're not going to develop our intelligence. Our intellectual capacity is going to be declining, is going to be fading away because we're not using our muscle memories, we're not using our brains and the different parts of the brains that are actually developing critical thinking and our intellect. And none of us should accept that. We should rather be smart about it. As the panel discussion talked about, we should be smart about it, and we should find ways to maximize the potential and the synergy between oneself and GenAI. Only then can we truly see the potential around this relationship, this partnership between the two of us. So if we look at how seduction and seduction of easy access can influence us, and if we look at how our identity is influenced by that, as well as the intelligence trap, the theft, the stealing of our intellectual capabilities and capacity, then perhaps it's not unreasonable to say that we should be a bit concerned about how GenAI can slowly rip our soul out. While all these four initial key points are factual, I believe they're factual, I believe they're true. There is another side to this as well, that we don't necessarily have to make this so dramatic. GenAI doesn't have to be a thief. It doesn't have to, piece by piece, rip our soul out. It doesn't have to reduce or decline our cognitive and intellectual capabilities. It can actually be a collaborator. It could be a sparring partner. It could be a business partner. It could be, I guess for many, even a friend, an artificial friend, but still a friend. It can be all of this, but it requires a conscious decision from ourselves on how we want to approach this. And I do believe that that conscious decision it hinges on how we keep developing ourselves so we don't get lost by allowing GenAI to just completely and utterly take over. I believe that we can really build a strong, long-lasting, synergetic, continuous relationship and partnership with GenAI if we do it in the right way. And that's why I wanted to create this video, to shed some highlights on this, because I think that it is very important for us to have these thoughts and then to make some conclusions on how we're going to approach this development, this relationship. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. I would be super happy if you could. It would help me to develop my channel as I just started. And then put your comments below and share how you look at GenAI and how you are embracing or integrating, if you are, GenAI into your life. See you later. Bye.